Hello all my Kinvians and welcome to a brand new episode of Discovering Game of Thrones. Today begins the new format which I am going to experiment with just to see if it works with Game of Thrones. This is something I've done with Steven Universe because the episodes were really short and it made it easy to do. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be reacting to the episode and then doing my review afterward, like immediately afterward. I'll take some time to write down notes and everything, but that's how the format of this is going to be. So, we're going to give it a try. Hopefully it works out well. Drinking some cider. And we'll be watching You Win or You Die. And if you hear me typing every now and then, it's because I have my Word document open over here. So, let's begin! I do hope this works out the way I plan it to. Because, really... I'm not a reaction channel, but... I know that doing reactions is by far one of the most popular well, not one of the most. It's basically the most popular thing on my channel right now. But I still want to do my more in-depth review aspect of it. And I figure that doing it in this format will allow me to do that. I'm not going to be doing that with every show. Just probably ones that are sort of more popular, perhaps, like Game of Thrones. Again, Steven Universe, I do it primarily because of the length of the episodes, and also it's rather popular. I may do that with Torchwood and maybe some of the Doctor Who stuff going forward. It's hard to say really at this point, but I will, give it a shot. And, I mean, as long as I do it within the bounds of reason as far as, them not being too long. I mean, obviously this is going to be edited, that it should work out fine. I may not always be able to do full reactions. I'll put those up occasionally, like in the links down below, but as it stands, I know I've been talking this entire time over the credits, but yeah, that's the goal. That is, the more popular shows may just end up getting this kind of format. And the credits are over now, so let's begin.
You gonna say something clever?
Yep, that's his dad.
Go on, say something clever. When you hear them whispering Kingslayer behind your back, doesn't it bother you?
Of course it bothers me.
He's got daddy issues.
He doesn't concern himself with the opinions of those sheep.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I suppose I should be grateful that you're...
And that night he crawled on top of me stinking of wine and did what little he could do.
Ouch.
And whispered in my ear, Lyanna. Your sister was a corpse and I was a living girl and he loved her more than me.
Oh.
When the king returns from his hunt, I've made many mistakes in my life. But that wasn't one of them.
Oh, but it was. When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die.
Title of the episode.
There is no middle ground.
And probably the quote of the episode, too. Hello, Littlefinger.
What's that?
Lord.
Why?
Why? What do you mean, why? My father is Balon Greyjoy, Lord of the Iron Islands.
What's that got to do with you? Your father's Lord. How can you be Lord too?
I will be Lord after my
So
father.
you're not Lord now?
He's no writer.
Oh. Was that, Benjen's horse? Because Benjen is the one that went out. Or did he have a crew with him? I can't remember.
Robert, we were hunting a boar.
A boar? He didn't specifically say Joffrey until my rightful heir.
It was over. Oh, Sofro.
Oh my god, they're adorable!
He shot the Crucible.
And because he had dragons.
Having a few dragons makes things easier.
Indeed, indeed.
You don't believe it?
You ever seen a dragon, Khaleesi?
Something wrong?
I have a thirst. Open it.
The wine is for the Khaleesi, it's not for the likes of you.
Open it.
Assassin. He's gonna try and poison her.
Pour.
It would be a crime to drink a wine this rich without at least giving it time to breathe.
Do as he says.
As the princess commands.
Technically the queen, but... So much close-up. Yep! Oh, man. Oh, he is going to be in pain shortly. Or right now. I know he's appeared before, but I know Rakaro from something else. I'll mention it in the review.
He came to us as outlaws. This house or that house.
Super Ginger.
For gold,
Sorry.
for glory, a woman's love. The Night's Watch is my house now. The Seven have never answered my prayers. Perhaps the old gods will. As you wish. We've all been assigned an order according to our needs
Well done,
and
Samuel.
strengths. Rast to the rangers, John to the stewards,
What?
Sansa to the builder, Ichiel to the builders, Gordo to the stewards, Nico to the rangers, Escan. You will assist me in the rookery and library.
I'm not dead yet,
You will report to Mine Marsh in the
but I'm close.
Luke, report. Could you sing me a song, Pip? I'd to hear a song.
Oh God, I love him.
The old man is the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. You'll be with him day and night. Yes, you'll clean his clothes. But you'll also take his letters, attend him at meetings, squire for him in battle. You'll know everything, be part of everything. And he asks for you himself. He wants to groom you for command.
Holy crap, Sam! Samuel
I always wanted to be a ranger.
is freaking brilliant.
I always wanted to be a wizard. Oh, yeah. You'll stay and say your word with me.
Oh my God. I hope Samuel doesn't die. Oh.
What's he got there? It's a me ghost. Bring it in. Got to be good.
Oh no. Oh goodness.
What did you do to him?
Oh. Oh, he's still alive.
When the Khaleesi rise, he'll be leashed to the...
What's Drogo gonna do to him? Oh. Oh. Oh my God. He is adorable. Oh. That man should play Kratos. Holy crap. Is it weird that he scared me right then, and despite being straight, that was really hot? Oh my god! Oh goodness. I was not expecting to see that.
All is accomplished. The city watch is yours. Good. Is Lord Renly joining us?
I fear Lord Renly has left the city. He rode through the old gate an hour before dawn with Sir Loras Tyrell and some 50 retainers. Last seen galloping south in some haste.
I can't tell if he's lying or not. He always does that creepy grin.
Call home.
Your son has no claim to the throne.
Liar! You condemn yourself with your own mouth, Lord Stark. Sir Barristan seized this traitor.
Sir Barristan is a good man, a loyal man. Do him no harm.
You think he stands alone?
Kill him! Kill all of them, I command it!
Oh, great.
Commander.
Got a freaking middle schooler
Queen and her children into custody.
commanding an army.
Escort them back to the royal apartments and keep them there, under guard. Men of the watch! I want no bloodshed. Tell your men to lay down their swords. No one needs to die.
Littlefinger! Oh, they're with the rest of Ned's men.
I did warn you not to trust me.
Okay, then. Oh, my God. Well, it wasn't wrong. There was bloodshed. Not exactly the way I thought it was going to be. But, okay. Alright then. So, I am going to gather my thoughts, and there will be a transition. During that time, I will get down the rest of my notes that I need, and I will see you all for the review. Until then, transition and possibly a commercial, if you don't have ad block on. Okay, all my Kenvians, welcome back, and it is time for the review portion of Discovering Game of Thrones, and... oh my god, okay. As always, I have a fair number of favorite parts for this episode, so let's get started. The first of which is the scene with Jaime and Tywin Lannister. There was just... it was one of many scenes in which so much was going on. One that distracted me, but also just the things that were being said, and just sort of a new picture it almost laid out for Jaime. Well, and definitely Tywin, since this was my first time seeing him, to the best of my knowledge. I don't think he had ever appeared on any previous episode. But for Tywin, it is clear that in the end, all he cares about is the power of the Lannister name. And I don't know if it's meant like him cutting and cleaning the whatever it was, large animal. I forget what it was meant to show how ruthless he is, or just how second nature the butchering was, but it's... I don't know, it seems pretty clear to me that he's willing to protect that Lannister name no matter what, and no matter how dirty he has to get his hands. Though apparently with all the money they have, he's more than willing to get other people to do it for him. And then with Jaime, I mean, I don't know if, the way I was sort of reacting there in the reaction was an accurate assessment. I kept saying, like, he has daddy issues, but there's definitely... There's some serious psychological stuff going on in that family, aside from the incest. But, oh yeah, it's so strange. Well, not strange so much, just incredibly interesting. I do wish we had gotten to see a little bit more, though, because, I mean, all we got, literally, was that scene with them at the very beginning. And since it started in their encampment, where the army was, I kind of expected to see more of that, or at least one or two more scenes, but I guess not. I guess they're holding that out for the next episode. But moving on, my next favorite part was the scene that came immediately after that, and it's when Ned confronts Cersei, or has counsel with her. Oh, that scene alone was just it was so intense. I mean, the final scene was stressful and intense, but that scene right there, acted out between those two, was just phenomenal. And I mean, I'm not going to say I really care for Cersei. I definitely see her, from my perspective, I definitely see her as one of the bad guys on this show, for many reasons. But I mean, she definitely showed a lot of power in that scene. Like, just technically, Ned has the moral high ground there, but it was clear that Cersei has, or had, the high ground that matters. Like, she knew the power that she could control. She knows the power that is there and how to control it and what she can do. She knows how the game plays. Which actually brings up one of the quotes of the episode. I did mention this, but it was just... It was a really powerful one. And it was, when you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. There's no middle ground. Which not only was, I mean, name of the episode, but name of the TV show. And I feel like with that line right there, Cersei established herself as what I can only assume is going to be a very, very powerful presence through a good portion of this show. Now, I don't know if she's died yet through the course of the show. I don't know exactly what happens, but she is going to be a very powerful presence. I have no doubt about that at all. But anyway, moving on from there, I'll actually refer back to that scene a little bit later, but I'll wait until we get to the actual quotes, like the quotes of the episode, unless the ones that I don't get to during this. But moving on, Littlefinger's backstory. Now again, that scene was very distracting, and I most likely did not include it on the YouTube version of this, because it was basically visual and audible porn, or softcore porn at the very least. But, if you've seen the episode already, you know what I'm talking about. Littlefinger's backstory, learning about what happened with, at least from his perspective, with him and Kat, and then her marrying into the Starks family. But apparently she was supposed to marry Ned's brother originally? I don't know if that's going to be explained anymore, or if maybe that's something that's expanded on in the books. I don't know exactly. But just all of that was very intriguing. Very intriguing. But moving on from there, my next favorite part of this episode was during the scene with Theon and I saw it on the Amazon thing, but her name is Osha, or yeah, I guess that's it, Osha. But the wildling, basically. And just their back and forth, and the way she was questioning him being a lord, it felt like such a Monty Python moment to me. Like, it felt like an extension of the scene from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I didn't vote for you. Not a very sound form of government. Or, I don't remember the exact line, but women throwing swords around. Whatever it is. Or, yeah, I don't remember the exact quote. I'll spend all day trying to remember it, but like, it felt so much like that scene, and it was so perfect, up until the kind of creepy part where Theon was kind of getting to assault her. But yeah, just that part of the scene was just awesome. Now, moving on from there, my next favorite part of this episode was it was when we see Robert for the one and only scene, and I was right, I guess, in that scene. That was the last time we would actually ever see Robert, because he died before the next time we saw him. And, well, obviously so much about that scene was incredible, and my computer wants me to restart right now. No, I'm not going to restart it right now. Don't talk to me. But first of all, Robert makes Ned ruler of the Seven Kingdoms, or at least that's what he says is going to happen. But I was also blown away, and I don't know if they'll actually expand on it anymore. I don't know if it's going to be a matter that's dropped from this point or not. But the fact that it's a boar that kills Robert. The boar gutted him, basically, and he did live afterward, but it was the wound that ended up doing him in. So, I mean, in the end, I was wrong as far as who was going to kill Robert. Or what, rather. But, at the same time, I feel like, in a way, maybe I was right. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but the Lannister boy, whose name I keep forgetting, I apologize, he was the one that kept giving him wine. So, in a way, he's responsible, but at the same time, Robert pretty much demands it most of the time. No, wait, but, during the scene of the last episode, the boy also, like, without Robert even asking, he runs up to him with the wine and offers it to him. So maybe that was planned? Or not, I mean, not necessarily him getting killed by the boar, but, like, maybe increasing the likelihood of a deadly accident? I don't know. It drives me crazy. But I'm spending way too long on this, and I'm getting off the topic. But the last part of that I do want to mention is the fact that Robert admits he was wrong about wanting to kill Daenerys. And, I mean, as we see, things don't exactly go to plan that way. But, I do like the fact that the character, as much as I began to dislike him because of his actions and his increasing unruly actions and attitude, that Robert did admit guilt or admit that he was wrong. So I like that. Ow. And moving on from there, my next favorite part of the episode, and I would say this is probably my absolute favorite part of the episode, or maybe even every episode these two are in, but Daenerys and Drogo are adorable together. Absolutely adorable. And I'm going to touch on Drogo a bit more, But just the chemistry of those two characters on screen is perfect. Like, maybe I'm wrong here, but as someone watching this show and seeing the way that Drogo and Daenerys interact with each other, the way they are with each other, the way they are so loving and caring, and the actors are able to portray that not just verbally, but in a very physical way. They're able to show how much they care for each other, and just, it feels real. And I feel like that's the kind of love a lot of people want. Not all of them, necessarily, but I just... the love that those two have for each other, I feel like it's the kind of passion and love that a lot of people want from a relationship. And that's just one of the reasons why I freaking love them so much. And... I'll wait until I mention it a little bit later. But moving on from there. My next favorite part of that episode was definitely when they went to the market and there was the scene with the assassin, or the potential poisoner, I guess you would say. I prefer to just call him an assassin. Oh, that was... something about it seemed weird at first. Like, I don't know if I was just watching stone-faced the beginning portion of it when Daenerys started talking to the guy, but I mean, eventually it started creeping in that something is kind of off here. Something is very weird. And it was probably, I mean, it probably helped that Jorah was like kind of gazing uncertainly, but also the fact that he got a letter from the spider, which again I think is the annoying bald guy. But yeah, just that entire scene was just brilliant. This entire episode was brilliant, really, but I'll save most of my praise for the end of this. Moving on from there, Jon and Samwell at the wall. And again, this is a matter of, like, you know, all of the scenes that they were both in for this episode, both where they both take the black, or the oath of the Night's Watch, whatever it's called. First of all, really creepy tree, like blood or sap coming from the eyes. That was bizarre. But one, the fact that Samwell stands up and offers to take his swear with Jon, which was a very, it was a very brotherly gesture, I felt. And and also, I mean, aside from the fact that Samwell makes me laugh, like, both him and Jon really, like, they very much have that brotherly acceptance of each other, and they very much act like they're brothers. But in this episode, I think Samwell had, or just Sam, I don't know which to refer to him as, he really showed some insight to what was going on, especially when it came to them being assigned their roles. It's like everyone assumed Jon would be a ranger, like Benjen, but instead he becomes a steward. And then Sam points out that, you know, the leader himself chose Jon, or requested Jon for that role. So he's going to be there as the squire for him. He's going to be at all the meetings. He's going to be learning all that kind of stuff. So they're sort of training him to take command. And to be completely honest, I wouldn't have thought of it that way. Maybe an episode or two down the line, but at the time I definitely wouldn't have saw it that way. So Samwell is an incredibly insightful character. And I mean, and in the previous episodes, you know, he's had his moments, but he's pretty much just always kind of the goofy, dumpy character. But when he stood up and gave his reasons for taking his oath with Jon to the Old Gods, and then also in that scene, it's just, I absolutely loved it. I have grown. I think Samwell has become one of my favorite characters unexpectedly, which I'll probably have a lot of in this show. But speaking of which, speaking of favorite characters, I noticed that Tyrion wasn't in there. Mark that as an annoyance for the episode. Every episode needs Tyrion. Any episode without Tyrion is not a complete episode. Or something like that. But moving on from there, I did like the scene where Renly comes to Ned and offers his help, offers his own advice and a way to make sure Joffrey and Cersei don't take over. But then, of course, we find out that he's doing it for his own purposes. He thinks he should be king. Now, in this interaction, I think that, in a way, both Ned and Renly are wrong and yet right. Is that Ned is kind of wrong in that he's being honorable to a fault. Like, he's not really taking so much necessarily common sense or the information he's being given as to like how to best handle the situation. He's relying on honor and the way things are supposed to be. The next one in line, since Robert doesn't have any legitimate children, should be Renly and Robert's brother, whatever his name was. And at the same time, I feel like Renly would have really served his purposes better if he hadn't just come out with the, I should be king. Like, that's something that maybe you can throw out later during discussions after you've made sure everything's okay. But no, so, yeah, that was a good scene, but I felt like both characters should have handled it differently, perhaps. But moving on from there, oh, and this is actually when Sam and Jon, well, after they take their oath, it's when Ghost comes out and he's found a severed hand. And that, I bring that up now because I'm just going to throw it in here. My question of the episode is that severed hand Benjen's? Because I think it very well may be. I mean, it was apparently within relatively close proximity to this tree that held significant meaning to him. And so yeah, I think it was Benjen. And I guess that's my question. Was it Benjen? Now, obviously, if that's revealed later, don't tell me. But yeah, that's just my question. Or you could call it a theory. I don't care. But moving on from there, the last few favorites. The scene where Drogo comes into the tent and just the passion and love he shows for Daenerys, and he gives his promise to take the Iron Throne. Certain parts of the speech were kind of scary, to say the least. But, I mean, just overall, it was a passion-filled speech that it incites terror and just inspiration, especially for those that follow him. It was an amazing scene. Just an absolutely amazing scene. And then finally, I don't know that I would necessarily call this a favorite, but it's part of a scene that as a whole I would consider a favorite, painfully. But King Joffrey... that's not going to lead to any trouble at all, is it? But then, at the very last scene, we see that in the end, Ned and his men have been betrayed. And basically the only northerner left there seems to be Ned. Left alive at this point, at least, because the rest of them either have spears through them or have been cut in half. So, yeah, the betrayal. I would certainly call that a WTF moment. In fact, yeah, that's what I marked as my WTF of the episode. Oh my god. So, I just don't know what to think going into the next episode. I can only assume that Ned's probably not going to live much longer. But we'll see what happens. But okay, those are all my favorites. As for an annoyance, I do have one. And I know that this probably seems like a stupid annoyance to have, but it did bother me. I don't know if I showed it visibly, but it did. And it's Littlefinger's critiquing of the new women at the brothel. The Roz from that was Theon's girl / the one he liked the most, and then the other girl. And it's just something about that critiquing sounded so much like the judges that I hear on the Olympics. Like, now, I'm not a huge fan of the Olympics, but Jill is. And whenever, like, there's ice skaters on or people doing these really intricate, like, amazing things, they say, oh, well, she was doing that wrong, and and her foot was like a ½ centimeter off point, so that's going to be negative points. And that's what it felt like listening to Littlefinger say all this stuff, aside from what was occurring in that scene. So, yeah, I mean, that's my big annoyance. It's just, him doing that critiquing of them, it irked me in the same way that those annoying judges at the Olympics do. So, that's my only annoyance for this episode, seriously. But, as always, if you all have any of your own favorites or annoyances, please do feel free to leave them in the comments down below. I would love to hear. Again, I may have just been blown away by this episode, but that's the only annoyance I had. So I would love to hear if there are any others you all might be able to think of, or that you personally had. Moving on from there, track of the episode. Unfortunately, that was one that was really hard for me to try and think of, just because of I wasn't really paying attention to the music when this viewing. I was trying to pay attention to everything that was going on because it had so much going on. If there was music, maybe it was the music playing during the scene in which Drogo proclaimed that he was going to take the Iron Throne. So if that was, then yeah, sure, let's say that was the track of the episode. Now, as for quotes, I did get a few written down, and I actually did address a few of these earlier, but the others that I didn't refer to, I don't remember if I mentioned this, but the line where Tywin says, "The lion doesn't concern himself with the opinion of the sheep." That is, I know that is a quote that I have seen other places. I just don't know if that originally came from the show and then became a meme / quote-worthy thing online, or if I'm sure it probably came from elsewhere and then it was adapted for the show here, but very indicative of what Tywin sees himself as, because they are the Lannisters. Their banner is the lion, so everyone else must be sheep. Aside from that, I mentioned Cersei's line about when you play the Game of Thrones, blah, 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 but I did have another line, and it was just, it took me a moment to remember the name of the woman she was referring to, but she was talking about the wedding night of her and Robert, and she says, "Your sister was a corpse and I was a living girl, and he loved her more than me." And again, I can understand how that can make you very, very bitter towards someone. Insanely bitter. I mean, not only Ned's sister, who is getting, despite being dead, is getting the affection of the woman, or the man that she just married, but also just the man himself, that he's not able to let that go. So yeah, that was a bit of relatability or empathy that I was able to feel for Cersei for sure. And then finally, my last quote of the episode is from Jon and Samwise, and it's one of it's a scene that definitely made me laugh. But it's, Jon says, "I always wanted to be a ranger." And Samwise says, "I always wanted to be a wizard." There's just something, the way it's delivered makes it perfect. And I found it actually kind of funny that I was cracking up at the same time Jon was. That was a lot of fun. Again, I really like those two, and I look forward to more scenes, hopefully both intense and enjoyable ones from them. And I apologize for the allergies. But let's see here. Moving on, and getting ready to close the episode. Before I get to my overall thoughts, which are undoubtedly clear at this point, my one theory, aside from the fact that I think the severed hand belongs to Benjen, is that considering the betrayal, and both the creepy bald guy and Littlefinger told Ned that he had run off, as well as the Lannister boy, with some servants or something like that. Handlers, I think they called it. I think Renly was murdered. I don't know about the other Lannister boy. Probably not. I would assume not. But I think Renly was probably murdered. I could be wrong, but I don't know. I have a feeling that, knowing that he might want to try and take the throne, that they decided to straight up murder him. Who knows? But, okay. All that aside, my overall thoughts of this episode, this show is just getting better and better. Now, I know it was quite slow in the beginning with the first few episodes. They were definitely still interesting, but not as intense. And these episodes keep getting more intense and more stressful, really. Especially if you're trying to figure out what's going on or what's going to happen next. But it was a great episode, and it definitely has me ready for the next one, without a doubt. So, yeah, I guess from there it's just time to move on. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed this format. It's definitely going to be a bit of a longer video, but hopefully, it's something that people will enjoy. Especially since there is still the reaction aspect to it. As for, well, as I mentioned earlier, if you have any of your own favorites or annoyances, or anything else really, as I mentioned in all the other videos, if you have any tracks, well, I guess theories don't really work if you're already pretty far ahead in the show. If you are also new to the show, I would love to hear any theories you might have at this point. Now, nothing forward ahead, obviously, because I haven't watched it yet. But again, quotes and tracks and blah, blah, blah. Anything you might want to say, please do leave it in the comments down below. I would love to hear what you have to say. Now, next time, we will be watching The Pointy End. And, I have a feeling I know what The Pointy End is. It's what Ned is going to be at the end of, or something. I'm mixing up words. But anyway, everyone, thank you so much for being here. And, let me know what you think of this format. Let me know if there's anything you might like to adjust. Again, this is not a reaction channel, but these videos will contain reactions from here on out. So, moving on, until next time for The Pointy End, I'm Papa Ken, and I will see you all for the next Discovering Game of Thrones. Later days.